Welcome to the Livingston Parish Thread. We've carved out our little part of the country, and we're proud of it. And now, finally, there's a podcast talking about it. This is the Livingston Parish Thread with your host, Brendan Browning. This podcast is sponsored by Brendan Browning and the Tactical Home Team at Keller Williams Realty. Call the Home Selling Tacticians, 225-445-0629. Your real estate professionals. This is the Livingston Parish Thread. And here's your host, Brendan Browning.
Welcome to the Livingston Parish Thread. My name is Brendan Browning, your host. I'm here with Clay Grant. What's up, Clay?
What's up, bud?
Clay and I are going to have a discussion about the recent school board meeting where he spoke at and I didn't speak. I was just kind of sitting back and just watching and listening and recording and record. Well, just your part. But I know Clay and I have been talking for a few months here. I kind of know some of his beliefs, whatever. He said some really good things last night, and I didn't really plan on recording a podcast. That's generally how it goes, but didn't plan on recording a podcast about the school board meeting unless I felt like it needed to be, talked about. And after leaving last night, I feel like it deserves a conversation. I think that there are people out there that perhaps was not there, that I think would benefit from hearing what he has to say. Look, I'll be completely transparent as well here. This has been a difficult topic for me to work through. And I think a lot of people are perhaps struggling with this because you get this pull from each direction. Like people are dying. It's a fact. And, and these new variants, whatever, are coming out, and why that is, there's some different reasons that we won't get into. So this is strictly going to be about...
I don't know, we might get into.
We perhaps could. This is not a formatted interview. This is a conversation. But I really wanted people to hear what he had to say last night. So we're going to kind of go over that. But before we do, and look, I really don't want to be the guy that if you look at all the podcasts that I do, do I give our elected officials a hard time? I don't think I really do. I'm out of the 70 podcasts that I've done, there's been maybe 5 or 6 or 7 of them that's been about, things that's happening, maybe a little more, I don't know. But I try to be very reasonable and fair.
No, I totally agree with you. And I've watched almost about 99% of them. Yeah. So, but I honestly, in my personal opinion, I think you're too lenient.
Well, I don't, and maybe I am at times, but I really do my best to take a humble approach. I really do my best to put myself in their shoes. I try to see it from their perspective as much as I can, and that's impossible for me to do. And I always keep that. I always check that with myself. I'm like, I think I kind of know what I would do. I know where my values are, et cetera, and I wouldn't stray away from those, but I don't know everything, right?
Correct.
So I always try to keep things in perspective.
I think you've learned a lot from Jocko, too.
I have. I've learned a lot. But anyway, so let me kind of start off right here. And this is my first critique, I guess you can call it, of what happened last night. And I've tried to, maybe you can give some insight here, but I've tried to understand the logic behind why they, and this is the same thing that happened last year, why they would say something like, okay, we're going to open the floor for public comment, right? But understand that this is not a Q&A session, meaning that this is not going to be a back and forth between, us and you, okay? Well, I compare that to the council, for example. Yeah. The council has never said that I can recall. They've always been willing to have an open dialogue, right? So what do you feel the same way? Do you think that that's justified in any way?
No, it's never going to be justified because, first of all, the whole problem with that is when you open the floor for public comments, but yet we're not here to have a discussion about it. And that already tells you right up front, we'll hear you out, but what you say is not going to change our minds. But at the end of the day, if we don't understand that the one major thing that I look at this is they are elected officials. They are held to a standard where, again, it is our job to elect them, but it's not their power that they have.
Yeah.
That the power that they have comes from us, the people who put them in these positions.
Right.
So we're only lending them our power.
Right.
But when they deliberately come out and say, we're not going to have an open discussion about this, then what does that do to our power? Mm-hmm. And that's the reason why I keep always trying to bring this up, is that our elected officials, and granted, Brandon, I see you do this all the time. I know your point of view. I know the transparency that you bring when you do bring up these issues, is that if you want transparency, what you saw last night is not transparency.
Right.
We need to know where they stand. Now, there was a few comments that were made yesterday shortly after the meeting. So we know that there are a few people on the school board here in Livingston Parish that agree with us that we're not really understanding the true science behind this, because they keep saying we're following the CDC guidelines. Mm-hmm. Well, that's just it. The CDC does not tell you what to do. The CDC makes recommendations. Why does those recommendations come toward the government now forcing a mandate? Mm-hmm. We already know there's places all over the state right now. We know that West Louisiana that just said, nope, we're not doing the face mask. Rapides Parish, their school board is leaving it optional. And that's all we really wanted, was that you make the mask optional without prejudice.
Right. You're jumping way ahead.
I know. What do you mean jumping way ahead? I get this, man.
Yeah, no, I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you.
And don't edit any of this.
I won't.
We need to continue, because this is the dialogue.
I don't edit it.
Good.
People think that I take things out. I don't. Yeah. I very rarely watch them before I release them. Right. I send them to my editor. He edits it. And boom.
Yep, there you go. That's how you do it.
Yeah, I ain't got time to be editing stuff. And, maybe I could have said this better. Let me cut that out. No.
The Livingston Parish Thread with Brandon Brown.
That's right. All right. So going back to my original question. So there's no excuse for it.
No, not at all.
I mean, and look, the one thing that the superintendent did last night before they went into this is they put out their statement. They were like, look, this is a governmental mandate. We followed the governmental mandates we followed them last year, and it was a success. So they look at what happened last year as a success. And, is that arguable? Yeah, I mean, we did fine. We made it, right? Could have been better? Yeah, but we made it. So in that aspect, yes, it's a success, right? So they're saying, well, we're going to follow the government's mandates again, and we're going to pull through this. We're going to work together, blah, blah, blah. Well, one of the arguments that they make is, look, if we don't follow let me frame it this way. Let's frame this conversation first, right? There's a lot of constitutional conservatives, and he's libertarian, that really, really don't like what's going on right now.
Correct.
Right? It's sickening. Okay. And everybody's kind of like, at what point do we really do something and really stand up and fight against this craziness?
And this should be not just a political thing, whether you're conservative, libertarian, Democratic, because I can label and state many, many things for each party and how they believe. Because even if we go back to, all right, let's just look at the Democratic platform. We currently now have an administration, which if you go back just right prior to the election of President Biden, when they asked both of them, would you take the vaccine? And they both said, and this is on live TV.
I posted on YouTube.
Oh, you did do
Facebook the other day.
And you're like, come on, guys. And they're like, no, I don't trust this. I'm not. But yet the minute he gets in, yes, everybody needs to get it. Let's force it now.
Yeah.
Because that's what's happening all across the country. They're forcing this. But Democrats believe in my body, my choice. Mm-hmm. Till win.
Not right now.
Till win.
Yeah.
It's always the narrative of it. Republicans, again, we're in the same boat as well. We still look at that constitutionality of this. Where do you draw the line?
Right.
because most people don't know. And I always keep bringing this up. And I had friends of mine that we had this discussion. They're like, why are you so against not just the mask, but even the vaccines? And I said, if history will tell you anything, most people don't want to go back to history. I said, but look at the polio vaccine. When they first issued the polio vaccine, the government had to shut it down. The government's the one who wanted to force it. But then the government shut it down because it was killing people. Yeah. And then the government goes, nope, stop, abort. Right. And then fast forward, we had 40 years of the Tuskegee experiment. I mean, that lasted from the mid-30s till the 70s for the whole syphilis crisis. And that right there should have told people that, hey, look, when it comes to certain things, yes, we understand that vaccines in certain platforms have worked. But my only concern now is that when you have something that is rapidly created and then all of a sudden is just pushed out and no one can test the long-term studies of it, then why try to do that? Yeah. So,
yeah, and I'm with you, but going back to my question, because you went ahead again.
I'd like to do that a lot.
I know. At what point do you actually take advantage of an opportunity to fight back? And look, I went into last night thinking I was really torn, man, because I was like, okay, well, if we were to make it optional, right? Okay. What are the repercussions of that from a perspective of a school administration, school board? Hold on. And
damn, you already knew I was finna talk.
Yeah, I can see your lips moving. So I'm thinking. I'm trying to be balanced here, trying to think from their perspective. Okay, so let's say they make it optional. You're going to have a group of parents that are going to complain to the governor's office. No doubt about it. You're going to have that, right? So what's going to happen? They're going to likely come and investigate whatever. They can issue a citation, whatever. I don't know all the consequences. Hold up. Consequences with that. so I'm thinking from both sides, right? And I'm like, well, do I want the school administration to be sued? No, I don't. I think that could be counterproductive. Do I think if that went to the Supreme Court, whatever, that it would hold? No, because I think it's a constitutional violation. But so I'm thinking from both sides of I'm attempting to think from both sides here, right? Okay, so to get to my point, so I was torn, but after, sometimes we just need to be reminded, and sometimes we need to be able to detach and look at the whole situation and say, okay, is this the moment where we can fight back and really win? So after Clay spoke, and there was a lady that spoke before you or after you?
Before me.
But no, she spoke after you.
But there was one before and after me.
And she, they just helped me put it in perspective, and I'm sitting back and I'm going, you know what? This is an opportunity to fight this, and I think it perhaps we're missing the opportunity. So, okay, so go into what your argument last night. You don't have to do verbatim, obviously, but he got up and spoke last night. I don't think you can hear it on YouTube. Didn't it get cut out?
Yes, they cut me out midway.
Okay, I have it on my phone.
We're going to post that
if you want me to share it. Yeah. So, what is your argument that it's wrong for the school board and the school administration to go along with this mask mandate?
Okay, well, let's just say this: in the beginning, the first time that this happened, okay, it was new. No one knew what was going on. No one knew anything. So the first time it was like, okay, but then again. Here was my questioning about this about mid-school year. When school really kicked off and they got to go back into the classroom. I asked both my kids, and they both go to Livingston Parish schools, and they did. Well, they give us breaks in class. Like we have 15-minute mask breaks while we're sitting at our desk, where we can take a break, take the mask off. And I looked at him and I was just like, wait a minute, how much sense does this make? That like what? Does the teacher call for a 15-minute mask break and tells all COVID particles to instantly freeze in midair so no one can get sick?
Right.
If it worked, why would they be doing that? Yeah. Number one. Again, like I pointed out last night, as you know, if you look on the boxes of these masks, and granted, cloth masks are not going to help you. Like I made the comparison to if you look at firefighters when they go into a burning house, what are they wearing? respirators, large respirators with oxygen tanks attached to it, all right, to prevent them from the inhalation of smoke. Radioactive gear. When painters go in and paint houses or paint buildings, whatever, they have respirators that they have to wear so they can keep out the paint fumes. But for the most deadliest virus in the history of mankind, all of a sudden, here's this little cloth mask or whatever mask you want to put on that's going to protect you and save you from this. How much sense does this make? There is none. I had a guy we reached out to, and he's actually a doctor, and he says, Clay, he says, I tell you what, you go put on the N95 mask, and you go stand in front of the stove and cook you a slab of bacon, and tell me if you can still smell that bacon. And I was just like, he said no, because those particles in the air, it's just the same thing. If you can still smell that, then you can still contract it.
But is there an argument out there that mitigates it anyway?
No, because they're going to create the narrative, just like Dr. Fauci said. Now, let's just go back to Dr. Fauci real quick. Fauci said in the very beginning when this started that masks were not required. Right. Okay, and almost immediately after that, he changed his tune to where they wanted to start recommending you wear masks, to where they started to forcing you masks to go into public buildings, whatever the case may be, stores, schools. Now, they started doing that. Well, when he initially came back and they asked him, well, why did you say it was okay? Then you flip-flop. Well, I was scared that there wouldn't be enough surgical masks for the healthcare professionals. Well, that sounds like a really good narrative for you to draw the line there. I said, okay, well, let's just look into something. So we went back, and in 2008, this is a study of the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918. And yours truly, of course, Dr. Fauci, wrote off on this and said, granted, if you go back and look at the Spanish flu was a deadly flu. I mean, it killed millions of people.
I didn't realize he was alive in 1918.
He wasn't alive in 1918. He wrote the article about what was the main killer. The Spanish flu itself did not kill people. Bacterial pneumonia did. So what are now scientists finding out about the use of wearing of masks? Okay, so they had a independent study right out of Florida. I know it was like one of the University of Spectrometry. They did a report where they sent off so many masks, and they came back, and I'm talking about there was like 96 different variants of bacteria that was forming on these kids' masks. No, granted, you wear a mask. I've seen you with your little pullover, face guard.
Same thing I wear when I cut grass.
Yeah. So what do you think is on that? I guarantee you, like I said, all right, how often do we like the mask? Where do you put your masks when you're done with them?
In my truck.
In your truck, on your seat. And sometimes if you're going somewhere, you put it in your pocket. Kids are going to put it in their book sacks. And everything else is just getting up on that. Right. Imagine if you take that back out the next day and you put it on. What are you now doing? All right. And on top of that, that's all the different bacteria that's accumulating on the mask, not even incorporating when you're there. Of course, you're talking through this mask or you're spitting, and there's different bacteria that grows and responds to that. That's the only reason why I keep telling people this. Look, I'm not against people wearing masks. I'm not against the parents who want to send their children to school wearing masks. All I'm saying is that your fear does not trump our rights.
Right.
And that's what it boils down to. The government, the governor, anybody else, when they mandate you do something, their fear should never trump your right to choose what's best for you, your body, or your children. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. But it's for the common good.
Yeah. Well, everything today now is for the common good. My whole thing is this. Let's look at this.
I was being sarcastic.
In 9/11, when 9/11 happened, what did we give up after 9/11?
What did we give up?
What did we give up after 9/11?
I don't know. What did we give up?
A whole bunch of our freedom. Because you can't go anywhere without what? You're constantly being checked. We have now, which if you understand this, we are now under complete surveillance pretty much 24/7. Doesn't matter where you go.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, you're carrying around a surveillance video with you every day.
Yeah.
So, and we know this through, the information that we've received, the Public Information Act, we know we can receive information. Yes, they do admit that they are watching us pretty much all the time now because they claim under, National Defense Authorization Act, that we can make sure everything's clear and going on. we gave up our freedom. Like, if you really think about it, we don't really have the freedoms that we used to have.
Right.
Because now we can't go anywhere without constantly being monitored on everything that we do. Can't make flights anymore without having to go through screening processes. And now they got these big body screens now, and we don't even know what those things are going to do to our bodies because. Again, you walk into a hospital and they do x-rays on you. What do they make you do? They make you hold that little metal plate up and whatever. You go but walk into an airport. Did they do that?
Right.
They're not giving you anything to protect you from all this stuff that they're pumping into your body. Right. Under what guise? Safety. Right. But if you go back to history, what did Ben Franklin say about that? I'm asking you because I'm like Brandon Browning to give me an answer on that one. Do you know what Ben Franklin said about safety?
I'll probably remember once you tell me.
Those who are willing to give up liberty for temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Yeah. And that's what we have to look at. Right. We are giving up all of our freedoms left and right. This whole mask thing, and this is what people really need to understand.
Yes. What do you say to the people that say, it's just a mask? Like,
it's just your freedom.
What's So but there's a lot of people out there that are, I talked to somebody last night, it's, what's the big deal? It's just a mask. Like, blah, blah, blah.
What's the big deal?
So let's talk about that.
If you give them an inch, they take a mile.
Okay.
That's the whole point about this.
It's a slow fade.
It is. It's like, it's just this.
It's a drip, drip, drip campaign.
Exactly. So why is it that I can tell people and point to 9/11, look at every freedom that you lost since then, and then all of a sudden fast forward till now? Well, now it's a new narrative because I guarantee you this is not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. They're not going to let this die. This will be a continuation from years to come. And then you're going to become what? Well, it's just the new normal now. Mm-hmm. What else did you just give up? Mm-hmm. Granted, your health, your safety, everything else, you're just giving up under the guise of, well, you need to be compliant. Does anybody not know what happened with Nazi Germany? Does anybody not go back through history and realize what's going on? It's that simple.
To answer that question, no.
That's true. They don't.
Right? I mean, the book 1984 is, I wonder how many people have read that.
Oh, man, George Orwell. Granted, I don't know if he could have been like the new age Nostradamus. Yeah. He pretty much predicted everything that's going on that we're seeing today. Right. And this man died, how many years ago? Many years ago. I remember watching, it was one of his last, he was in bed, and he was one of his last interviews before he passed away. And he was warning people, like, guys, y'all have got to understand that this is what's going to happen. And if you don't stop it, there will be no control for anything. Let's take this for instance. People always say this, and look, there are people in my family that have said this numerous times. You're just one person. Right. What can you do?
That's the worst perspective to have.
And I'm like, there was a lot of people in our lives who have said those things where some of them actually stood up and actually did something. Sometimes it only takes just one person, and then another person hears it, and then they get inspired. Mm-hmm. That's the whole reason why, I know you want to bring this up, but I'll bring it up anyway. That was the whole reason why I ran for Congress in 2012, was because one person put something in my head to make me think, one person can make a difference.
I agree.
And, that was the thought process. And I just feel we should go that way.
That's exactly one of the things I said on one of my last podcasts on the good old boys system. Like, I do believe that, because people tell me all the time, you're beating a dead horse. You're not going to be able to fix anything. You're not going to be able to do anything. You're not going to have an impact, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, it goes in one ear and out the other.
Then why are we here? Why do we have elections?
Exactly. So it just, I'm like, whatever. I'm still going to do my thing. It's just how I am, is how I'm wired. And if some choose to jump on the bandwagon, whatever, great. But, but when you ask people, the people that I feel like that are on the bandwagon of the mask mandate. So I ran a poll, and still running on my Facebook stories, just the question, do you support a mask mandate in our schools? And right now it's 87% no and 13% yes. That's what the I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but that's what it says right there.
And look, all right, let's focus on this one right here. To the no's. All right, the 13% so far. Now, we don't know those actual numbers.
Talk to the yeses.
No. I want to talk to the no's.
Talk to the yeses.
I'll talk to the yeses in a second, but I want to talk to the no's first. You have your rights. If you want to, if it's you, your child, anybody else, send them. That's your right as the individual. If you believe that this is for the betterment and safety of your child, then please, by all means, do what you believe is right. Don't do what the government is telling you is right. Mm-hmm. First of all, your rights do not come from government. Your rights come from God, right. Number one. All right? Mm-hmm. It is your God-given right. That's the reason why if you read the Constitution, it states that. Mm-hmm. Endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. Okay? The rights are yours first and foremost, nobody else's. So I'm not going to sit here and tell any parent that your child should not be sent to school with a mask. If you feel like your child is better off or safer with your child wearing a mask, please send them to school with it. But don't tell us that ours need to. That's not your right. It's not your place. Mm-hmm. That's ours. If anything happens to it, that's our responsibility. Mm-hmm. The responsibility doesn't fall on the state. It falls on the individual. And that's where we're losing sight of. Mm-hmm. That's where that freedom comes in, where I have that freedom, that right to tell what is best for me, myself, my children, my body. And that's the reason why I even brought up the whole Louisiana child code was about that. Our own state recognizes this, but on the same token is willing to go, well, not for this case though. Mm-hmm. And that's just not right.
So what do you say to the parent that may be sitting back right now and saying, well, I mean, schools have rules and we opt into those rules. Like, for example, could be earrings or tattoos or clothing, attire, whatever that they abide by. So what would you say? Why is this different?
All right. Let's just point one thing out real quick.
I'm trying to think of what somebody else would say. If
I know.
They were, you know what I'm saying?
Because like I said, and then people do that. People will say that. But according to the school board itself, the school student safety even states that the Livingston Parish School Board is committed to providing a safe environment for the students and employees of its schools. Okay?
Yeah.
What is it, or where is it, that you see where they have a right to anything to do with medical or whatever the case may be, anything that has anything to interaction of your body? Mm-hmm. That's not their place. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to what's best for our children, when it comes to masks, all right, yes, schools do have rules. Schools have dress codes. We understand that. But when you're restricting a child, especially a young developing child, when you're restricting their airflow, when you're restricting their ability, and we already know this, there's been numerous studies and tests have already came out. Even if you read the OSHA guidelines, OSHA standards for plant workers, they have a whole breakdown of the respirators and masks and their longevity, how long they should be wearing them, how many parts per million as far as the carbon dioxide intake. Of course, there is a thing called carbon dioxide toxicity. Mm-hmm. They have a whole breakdown of it. But yet those rules by the government are overlooked when it comes to our children and now the schools. Right. Because numerous tests and studies have already been shown that they're showing 10,000 parts per million when it should be well under. I mean, I think it's like 2,000 ppm for carbon dioxide intake over a certain period of time. We're seeing kids that are having up to 10,000 parts per million for carbon dioxide toxicity while wearing a mask for so many hours a day in the classroom. Right. And these are just regular masks, whether they're cloth masks or the doctor masks that they give out. And most of these other, like I said, your OSHA guidelines, they give them actual respirators. These aren't what we're giving our kids. We're giving them masks to wear. So if there's guidelines that are set for others, why don't we look at the reality of it? Why are we not looking at the truth behind all this? Why are we just assuming that those experts have our best interest at heart? Mm-hmm. And I want to make another point real quick.
Sure. Go ahead. You have the mic.
I know. I want to make another point just for the fact that I've been on this earth for 40 years. And
hey, I'm older than you, by the way.
Yes, you're just a few years older than I am. And the one thing that I always, because granted, I have friends, I have families, I have people of all backgrounds, all religions, all races, all denominations, all political ideology, and not a single one of them can say that they have always gone, I trust 100% in our government.
Yeah.
Every time that you've ever been around your friends or your family, everybody's always had that feeling of, hell, we go back to the old what Ronald Reagan said, about the politicians and, when they're lying. Mm-hmm. No one really trusts what they say. Why all of a sudden are we now putting all of our faith and trust in government? Can you give me any explanation of why people are willing to give up or to partake in the total and now belief that everything that comes out of our government and media is truth and factual?
Yeah, I think it perhaps would be just the topic and what's happening. I mean, you can't sit back as a good human being and watch what's happening and not want to do your part. You know what I'm saying? And so that's just in us. I think we want to do everything we can to beat the virus. But so I think because it's that topic and because I think just a natural good human being is going to feel that way, that is so much more easy to believe something like this than something else. You know what I'm saying? So and I think maybe there's a lot of people out there that sit back and go, well, why would they lie about this? Why would they? Of course, there's all these conspiracy theories about the vaccine or whatever. I'll just tell you, I'm not at this moment in time taking the vaccine. And nobody in my household is, but I've had one of my daughters that has opted into it. But so I think it's just because of what's happening. Nobody wants to see a bunch of people die. Nobody wants to see. So I think the government is you want to believe that they're telling you the truth in this scenario. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's everybody wants somebody to believe. But all right.
Yeah, but okay. So what about the person that sits back and is like, that really just can't get past? Okay, so I'm trying to think what somebody would think. Okay, so let's say they're like, okay, so we abide by the mask mandate, right? I mean, what could possibly happen after that? Like, where does that road lead? You know what I'm saying?
Following the mask mandates, like where does it lead? We will always have a mask mandate. It will never be lifted because, like I said, there's going to be numerous variants. All right, so let's talk real quick.
Right. So basically, are you willing to wear a mask for the
rest of your life?
Yeah.
The rest of your natural born life, you're going to be wearing a mask.
But do you think that's really possible?
Yes.
You do?
Oh, 100% possible.
Yeah.
Because they've already even talked about this.
Because there was somebody, I don't remember who it was now, I wish I remember the name, that said, we're never going back to the normal. Mm-hmm.
It's gone.
I forget who else said that.
It's gone. And the reason why
What do you mean it's gone? You ain't willing to fight for it?
Oh, I'm willing to fight. I'm going to fight for it. And quite honestly, I mean, I'm just going to be that guy who goes, all right, let's just say this. I want to make a point real quick.
I do want you to get to some of the stuff that you brought up last night.
Oh, I'm good. I got this.
Okay.
So let's just make this point real quick. Last night, when we got into the building at the school board, what was the first thing they asked us to do?
They had a LPSO deputy that said you need to have a mask when you go in.
Correct. All right. Did I wear a mask when I got in there?
No. You told them you had asthma.
Yeah, I told them I had a medical condition.
Yeah, medical condition.
Now, if you would have said, can you show me proof? I'm like, that's a violation of my HIPAA rights. You don't have no right for that, do you?
Right. But, so here's a question though. But it's a governmental building, right?
And didn't the governor himself state that, if you've got a medical condition, you don't have to wear a mask?
I don't remember.
Hey guys, just tell everybody you have a medical condition. And if they try to say, well, you show us proof. Here's the next step. The school board and the schools itself are saying that that your child can utilize a medical exemption, but you have to go to the doctor to get a signed written statement. That
they're not signing, by the way.
That doctors are not signing.
Correct.
But according to attorneys within the state of Louisiana that I've reached out to, is that no, you do not need that. All you need to have is a written statement on there saying that your child is medically exempt from wearing a mask, and any violation of you asking for any proof of that is a violation of my child's HIPAA rights, and you have no authorization for that. That is based upon us. It's the reason why I keep telling people you have to stand up. We surround them, not the other way around. It is our rights that are being violated, and if the schools continue to do that, this is one of the points I wanted to bring up last night at the school board meeting.
In your 3-minute time.
In my very limited 3-minute time.
That again, I don't like either.
and the fact that, okay, 3 minutes and no questioning, no nothing, no, hey, well, what about this? Nothing. But the one thing that I said is, this is questions that I've already talked about, and I've reached out to my attorneys and asked these questions because I want to be prepared. I want to be informed on what our rights are. There is no immunity to any elected official, and I hope to God the entire school board and the city council and the state government hears these words. You have zero immunity when it comes to your, I'm trying to get the best word to utilize for this, your disdain, I would say maybe, of the public trust. Because if you're going out there saying that, well, we're just following guidelines, okay? That's gross negligence. You or anybody else on this platform in the school board have zero medical experience. You're not scientists. You're not lab researchers. You're not immunologists. You're not biologists. You're not microbiologists. And you're making an assumption based off of what you were told. Now, I find that as being ignorant to the fact without doing the actual research, just abiding by what someone tells you. Okay. So when you look at the law of this, now granted, you can look this up, and I've actually posted it on a few of my sites, where it states that they are not immune to any of this. So if they're willing to enforce that they have a mask mandate, and because of, and again, a violation of your healthcare rights, it's called medical tyranny, which is the reason why we have what was called the Nuremberg Code, which everybody needs to research this. This is global. And the U.S. has recognized the Nuremberg Code since the early 1900s. And there's multiple court cases, which I've pulled some here, multiple court cases where they have implored on the Nuremberg Code. They have brought this up. This is what's going on. So with that being said, the gross negligence behind what they're doing, or I should say allowing, does not hold them immune. So if just one child becomes sick or has some kind of medical issue in the near future, hold them accountable, because that's your right as an individual. We have that right. And I would hope, that's the reason why when I went to that meeting last night, it was only for the hopes that they would just say, it's optional. We'll make it to the point where it's optional. So, like I said, you make it optional. Now you're not legally responsible. What they're doing is they're literally holding themselves legally responsible for the healthcare of our child now by enforcing this. So if your child gets sick, they're legally liable. And they don't understand that. And that's what I don't understand either. It's like, how are you willing to just go along with a narrative when you can be held legally liable for any damages that may be caused from your forced mask mandates? Can you answer that one for me?
Well, I know what they would say. They would say, I think I know what they would say. You tell me if I'm right. They would, obviously, I don't think that this is a guess. And if you do, I'm sorry. It's a guess, right? I would imagine that what you read last night, they have no knowledge of. I'd say 99.9% of them have no knowledge of that. And it's just, and look, I'm trying to compare this to like the military, for example, in a chain of command, right? You have a chain of command in the military. At what point does a mutiny become an option?
Yep.
Right. And perhaps maybe this is the point, but they would say, well, if we don't, and this is what they said, they framed this whole conversation last night, the superintendent did, by basically saying, this is how we get federal funding. We fall in line. Okay. So,
and I think Tori actually made a really good response to that too.
Yeah. She said, and correct me if I'm wrong, she said, since when does our funding, become a priority over our personal rights? Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. So again, since when does federal funding become a priority over our rights? Right. And that's a good question. That's something to ponder on, right?
Yeah. Why are we not discussing this?
Right. But so, if they don't follow the governor's mandates, right, apparently there's citations that can be issued, and they can withhold funding. Now, you and I disagreed last night because I said, I think if our school said, look, it's optional, like we're not going to follow this, I just have a hard time believing that a governor would step up and shut schools down and stop funding and paying the teachers. Like, if he did, by all means, he would have some hell to pay. But that's the argument.
I would like to see it, though.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the argument that they would give, is like, we cannot not pay we can't not pay our teachers. We can't not have school. And if we don't follow these guidelines, we can be shut down. Mm-hmm. Is it worth it?
Now, I don't think that they would actually hinder the teachers' pay. I honestly believe, and because like I said, the teachers don't set the rules. The school board sets the rules, right?
Okay. So what funding are they talking about then?
And it could be, granted, I don't 100% know exactly all the funding that the school board gets and what it's for. I've asked and requested information regarding that. I have not got a response. Matter of fact, out of all the emails that I've sent to every sitting school board member, not a single one has responded to me. But
that's not surprising.
Not surprising at all. But what I want to mention is that one of the things that when it comes to the funding that the school board funding gets, all right, I had a question that has not been answered yet, and I hope somebody can answer that. Is that funding that's tied into what the school boards receive, is in that funding also tied into their salaries? I had that question.
School board salaries?
Yeah.
Which is nothing, basically.
Yeah, which, granted,
yeah,
at the end of the day. But is that also tied into it? Because if it's school board funding to keep things operational and opening and stuff like that, all right, how different is that from because I said, I think there's multiple funding accounts, because I don't think that the Livingston Parish School Board has just a fund to pay their teachers. I think that comes from another state fund.
Right.
But I think there's a fund that's directly tied to the Livingston Parish School Board, right?
Maybe.
So with that fund, we know that there's operational costs and funds involved in that, but is in that funding also their salaries?
Yeah.
And if they're choosing that to where they said that it could be negated, because I got this from a congresswoman here in the state of Louisiana, that most of them are in compliance with it because of the funding, because they don't want to lose their funding. Mm-hmm. Well, is their pay directly tied to that funding? That was the only question I had, but no one's willing to give me the answer on that one just yet. Yeah. So if any of you out there listening know that, please reach out and let us know.
Right. So do you have that code that you mentioned that you can read? Or
yes,
no?
The Nuremberg Code. Now,
before we go into the Nuremberg Code, right? There's this is kind of because I was putting myself in their perspective. I was trying to put myself in the superintendent's shoes last night, and I was trying to think, how would I handle this? Right? If I were the superintendent, how would I handle this? Because that would convey that I was doing everything I could for the public and for the kids, right? So here's what I think I would have done before we get into that. I feel like I would have found, an attorney out there that specializes in, constitution attorney, whatever you want, constitutional law, whatever, and brought them in before this and consulted with them and said, do we have what can and we cannot do with the Constitution being the framework, right? And completely in that framework. And then I would have had that person actually come to the meeting. Actually, I would have had a completely different meeting. I would have had the school board meeting, and I would have had another meeting for the public to say, and I would have invited you to come to this meeting.
Have this question and answers.
Right. It's called transparency, right? And putting in the work, right? So that's what I would have done. And that's what I told my school member that I would have done. I would have said I would have a completely different meeting about this, and I would bring people in that could answer the questions, because I wouldn't stand up there and pretend like I know everything, because I don't. Right? I don't pretend to be to know everything about the Constitution,
and it's not your job to.
Right? But I would bring in somebody that knows a heck of a lot more than you and I to help educate me, as well as the constituency as well as the teachers, etc. And I would have had a completely different meeting, completely open. It would have been live in a place where it would stay live and you could actually hear.
Not get cut off halfway through.
But that's kind of how I would have handled this thing. And it's not too late for that. I would hope they would consider that.
No, I agree with you.
But I just don't like the way they did it last time.
And I like your conjecture when you talked about where if they could bring somebody in that has some, more knowledge about it. All right. Now, me personally, if they would have said, hey, look, we're going to bring a guy in that's going to be able to speak on these topics that has more relative experience on these topics, great. I applaud that. On the second hand of that is that once they would have said that, then I would have wanted to bring in somebody who has just as much information and just as much knowledge as that person is. Because again, we can't always just take the word of just one person of what their system of believing is.
Sure.
There has to be always somebody that's going to combat against it.
Of course.
So I would have been like, okay, cool. Well, then I have somebody that I want to bring in that's an expert in this field.
Well, you could have brought it to the transparency meeting and had that person ask that person a question. Yeah. All right. So let's go into this.
So again, all right. So the Nuremberg Code, which if you don't know anything about your history, I'd implore you to please research this. This is very important.
Spell it for everybody.
The Nuremberg Code is N-U-R-E-M-B-E-R-G.
Okay.
Nuremberg Code, 1947. So this actually was instated right after World War II, primarily because of what the Nazis did in the medical experiments that they were putting upon their people. So the U.S. pretty much steps in and says, this is what we're going to create. So what the Nuremberg Code is, the great weight of the evidence before us is to affect the certain types of medical experiments on human beings when kept within reasonably well-defined bounds, conform to the ethics of the medical profession generally. The protagonists of the practice of human experimentation justified their views on the basis that such experiments yield results for the good of society that are unprocurable by other methods or means of study. All agree, however, that a certain basic principle must be observed in order to satisfy moral, ethical, and legal concepts. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. Voluntary consent. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion. I want to stop right there for a second, because what have you been hearing over the past few weeks about the shots? We now heard that the state government is giving out $100 bills for you to go get the shot. We have this whole thing called $1 million for a shot, whatever it is. That's coercion. They're coercing people into getting this, and they are violating the law, the Nuremberg Law, which has been held by the U.S. Constitution and upheld by the Supreme Court since the early 1900s. So, with that said, after the coercion, and should have sufficient knowledge of comprehension of the elements of the subject matter involved as to enable him to make an understanding of enlightened decision. Now, I don't understand the one thing when it comes to how we have this overreach and where, granted, now you heard me say this last night at the meeting, and I did, and I honestly, I don't think there was a single person. Was that around the time I got cut off? Because I don't think a single person up there actually understood or knew what the hell I was talking about.
Maybe.
And if they do, please reach out to me. I mean, you have my email, so you can reach out to me. But it's just that understanding of why are you not doing your job? And because like I said, Brandon, you and I had this discussion before. If you were in this position, you would do everything in your power to make sure that you understand what's exactly going on. You're not going to take the assumption that you know more than anybody else. You're going to do the research. You're going to do the findings. You're not just going to listen to one side of the story. You want to, just like you said, you're always playing devil's advocate. So why not do the same thing instead of just being compliant? And not just compliant, but now they're becoming more complacent in this. So I just don't understand it.
Yeah. Is that what you emailed to the...
I emailed all this stuff to them.
Who'd you email it to?
Every single city member on there.
And you got no responses?
0 responses.
When did you send that?
It's been about 4 or 5 days ago.
And that code seems to fit with today's scenario.
Correct.
Perfect.
I mean, this code here, like I said, the In 2001, the Maryland Court of Appeal explicitly cited the Nuremberg Code as a source of legally enforceable ethical standards in the case against the Kennedy Krieger Institutes. Now, the case involved a government-led abatement experiment that exposed inner-city black toddlers to lead paint. The purpose was to record the damage effects of lead. All right? So you're already seeing courts are already, this is not new. They've been recognizing this code since, like I said, forever. So then you've got 2009, the U.S. Second Circuit Court of Appeals in the Southern District of New York cited the Nuremberg Code. Now, granted, there was multiple issues when it comes to that one, but the appeals in New York cited the Nuremberg Code as a universally accepted norm in customary international law regarding non-consensual medical experimentation. This is what we have now. Is everything that, and here's the thing too, when people talk about, you need to go get the jab, go get the jab, go get the jab. All right. You do realize that this is an EAU, which is an emergency use authorization. It has not been yet approved by the FDA.
It will be.
Clearly states this. It will be eventually, but it has not yet. And guess what? It has not yet been for a year. Right. You are the experiment. For a year, it shows it in there. It's an EAU experiment. Mm-hmm. We're giving you an experimental drug. Now, I told you before we started, there had been numerous cases involved with this. Of course, granted, if you look at when you had the discussion about TikTok, like you can see things on TikTok that's going on all around in the UK, Australia, India, stuff like that. But every time you try to research it yourself, you get railroaded. Right. You get blocked. You can't find anything. They've already blocked so many different people on YouTube and Facebook and everything else because they're just trying to get the information out there. Right. Today, I had a lady send me a message, and she said, "Clay, I tried to go to your page, which is Louisiana Life and Liberty." And she said, "Try to go to your page." And immediately before I could even click the like button, it pops up. This page shares inconsistencies about all this information. I'm just like, you see how that control is. Mm. And for one, by fact checkers. Right? With these so-called fact checkers. Right. That's what I want to know.
19-year-old kid sitting in
mama's basement.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, playing devil's advocate here.
Here we go.
Well, I mean, just it's legitimate questions that I think that's what I want to try to do.
You do your best at playing the devil's advocate. I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, because
hey, I like it.
You know, whatever. But so I was trying to think. Okay, if they said okay, the masks were optional, and then of course you're going to have a group of parents that, like I said, is going to call the governor's office and can't believe that they're not abiding by the mask mandate.
Holy hell, I know.
I mean, it would happen. You agree?
Oh yeah, it would happen. Definitely.
Okay, so let's say that the school was like, you know what? It's still optional. And let's say a kid gets sick and a kid passes away. All right. If that parent then decides to sue the school board or the school administration,
the masked child,
the child that passes away.
But you just said, but is this a masked child or a non-masked child?
Let's say it's a child that, for the sake of the argument, that was wearing a mask, and possibly the child next to him wasn't, or obviously interacts with other kids that's not wearing a mask. So if we want to look at the legality part of it, you know, obviously you can sue anybody for anything. So
that's true. We can sue people for spilling coffee on people at McDonald's.
So that's the other thing I was, that I was trying to look at too, is like the school board would get sued, the school administration would get sued. Now, would that be upheld in the Supreme Court?
Yeah.
I think it's a constitutional violation. It's a tragic event, obviously, but they would attempt to sue.
I don't even think there would be many lawyers who would actually even take on that case.
I don't know about all that.
And the reason why is that is because of this. These kids still have, most of these kids, especially the younger kids, they still have recess.
Yeah.
The minute they go outside, what are they doing? Taking the mask off. Yeah. So you mean to tell me that being outside is all of a sudden the instant part of where it goes, whoop, it doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
How do you know when they contracted it? You would never be able to legally say when they could have contracted that.
I agree.
Which is the reason why I believe that most attorneys would have been like, no, not touching it, because I cannot bring forth the burden of proof of this. Who's to say that child didn't go home and the parent gave it to him?
Right. Oh, I agree.
The burden of proof is going to be on the parent than anybody else.
But anytime you sue in government, it's likely the government's going to settle. That's what happens.
In some cases.
At least in the
depending on if the burden of proof is there.
At least in the law enforcement world.
But the burden of proof still has to be put forth. If it's just a conspiracy, or it's just, well, we think this happened.
Yeah. So
I'm telling you, me and you're going to have many more discussions about this.
No, I enjoy this. I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate for a reason.
Is there a God's advocate? I never heard of that.
I don't like they're using that word either. But because I'm just, like I said, I want people to listen to this and say, well, I wish, I don't want to walk away. Brandon should have asked him this question or that question. I'm just trying to think what other people would ask, right? So you mentioned last night that, and I think you covered this a little bit already, that them abiding by this governmental mandate is actually violating, they can be sued by parents, right? Didn't you say that?
Yes.
And have we talked about this already? Didn't you kind of mention it?
Yes, I already mentioned, yeah.
Okay. Do you want to go more into that?
We can do whatever you want to. This is your podcast.
No, it's not. This is the public's podcast. It's the public's podcast.
I'm sorry. I think this thing, whenever it first come out, it says the Livingston Parish thread with Brandon Browning.
Yeah, but I'm just a servant. So,
you play a good servant, though.
I try. So you want to touch on that more, or you want to kind of go? No. Here's a better question. What do we do? Like if you were. All right. Because I actually got this text message last night. I will read it verbatim to you. I'm not going to disclose. Hold on.
Let me just say one thing.
Hold on. Let me read.
I know. While you're going through that,
see, this person texted me, right? And
Texas is you?
Text me, and Texas is. So we're having a conversation, right?
What is this, the Opie Andy show now? We're just going to change this whole platform up?
No. This is good stuff.
I'm telling you, we need to do this more often.
So I'm dialoguing with this person last night.
And what did this person say? Are we at least able to get the first name of this person?
No, I'm not.
We can't. There's a lot of people with names. Just give the first name.
The first initial is A.
God. Amy, Amanda.
But my comment, and I won't start at the beginning, but who'd you say?
Just go.
But basically, to frame it up, she's like, what do we do, right? And I said, at this point, I'm like, I'm not sure. I said, I think people are just too comfortable with what's going on, and they're just going with the flow. And she said, yes, so many are. Every parent I spoke to, literally every single one says, it is what it is. Nothing that we can do about it. This is the mindset of most, right?
Yeah.
Then I said, yeah, unfortunately it is. It is. It's a slow fade. And she said, there has to be a way. I said, well, there's power in numbers.
Yeah. Get out of the mindset. That's the number one way.
She says, but do what? What do we do? Protest? And I said, why not? And she said, let's go then. And she said, let's plan it. Why wait for someone else to do it? Let's go. Let's stop being sheep. So
if not us, then who? If not now, then when?
So, okay. So let's talk about that. I think as this poll is showing on my Facebook feed.
Yeah, what's up to? Does it change anything yet?
I'm sure it's still at a higher percentage. Let me check. It's still at 87% no. Right. Okay. And one of those no's is somebody I called this morning. He was like, no, man, I was just messing with you. And I'm like, okay. But so one of the notes is not accurate. But so let's say we have a lot of parents out there that are like, I would love to do something. I just don't know what to do. Like, what do you think we should do?
I think we should. I think that, granted, it is in our right to organize and to peacefully assemble and to address, our grievances to whatever body is there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I do believe that we need to. I do plan on putting in a phone call this week to the school board. Granted, yes, this was the first meeting before school started, but yet we still have another meeting coming up at the third Thursday of this month. Mm-hmm. So, and just to see if they can put it back on the agenda, because instead of them just telling us, we'll listen to your public comments, but we're not going to answer any questions. We need to create an entire open forum for this. If they're not willing to address that, then we'll know where they stand. But why not let us be the ones standing outside? Did you see what happened in St. Tammany? Did you see the pictures of all the people that were outside? They closed down the forum of the school board. Well, I meant there were like almost like hundreds of people that were standing outside, and they locked the doors on them.
Dang.
Yeah. And I'm just like, well, what does that tell you? Well, granted, you already know most of the school board members, whenever, of course, they got done with the forum and everything else, and they, of course, there was a few people at the very end that was trying to make comments. Right. Like, why don't y'all say anything? Making comments about that. Well, because they all just shuffled out the back door to go about their day and their lives and not willing to come to us and have those discussions, which, again, are they not representatives of us?
Right.
Did we not put them in those spots?
Right.
Then it's time for us to hold them accountable. That we can demand that they answer our questions. It's that simple. We get elected them. Mm-hmm. They can't just stand there and be silent and be like, well, I can't discuss it. I can't talk about it. The hell you can't. Mm-hmm. That's the reason why you're put in this position. It's because you're supposed to go by the will of the people of your district, the people of your area. That's your job. And if you're not willing to listen to us, then what good are you? Right. Why are you there?
Right.
If you can't do your job the way that we, the people, elected you to do it, then get the hell out. Yeah. And if you won't get the hell out, we'll make sure you do.
But they look at last night. Here's what I think they see. Right. They look at last night, and this is like I said, the far majority of the public here seems to not want this mask mandate and don't want their kids. But look what happened last night in Livingston. How many people showed up?
Wasn't that many?
Take the cheerleader event out of it.
Wasn't that many?
Right? And we have 150,000 people here, around about 150,000 dollars. So it's $1,000, 150,000 people. But so they're looking into the crowd and they're like, well, I mean, I guess it seems like the majority of the population's okay with what we're doing because we're not showing up.
Hey, Brandon, I have an idea.
What's the idea?
How about this next one? How about we all assemble and we come together and we get there?
I'm game. I'll be there no matter what.
Okay, so that's what we should do. We should put in a call right now to everybody. Now, granted, we understand that it's on a Thursday. That's right at 5:00, and most of y'all are just now driving home. Which it's convenient when they do certain things like that. All right. I mean, we're supposed to have our convenience for them, but yet they don't make it convenient for us. Mm-hmm. So if we was to call the school board and say, hey, look, we would like for you to push back this meeting until 7:30. That way people can get home from work and get off to come here.
That was
you think they would do that?
5:00? No, they're not going to do that.
They're not going to do anything for us because they don't care about us. They don't care about our voices or anything like that. Right. So this... what is the next Thursday? The school board meeting is the 23rd. I can't exactly remember. I know it's the third Thursday.
The 19th.
So it's the 19th?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we get back on the 19th, then we need to bring a call to arms for everybody to show up.
Don't say call to arms.
It's
a trigger word.
It's not that trigger word. Look, and granted, if you again read the school board's thing, we can. It's our duty. It's our right to address these issues.
So what would you think? That's a great idea. But what if?
And I want this to be peaceful. Wait. I want this to be peaceful. Number one.
Okay, so.
But I want people
absolutely
to address
peaceful.
that.
It's going to be peaceful, man. I'm not worried about that here. So. Again, I'm trying to think of strategy here. So I've already mentioned what I thought I would do if I were in their position. Okay. So why can't we do that? Why can't we come together, raise some money, and pay, an attorney to come and represent hopefully hundreds of people and actually stand and put him on the agenda and get him to address the school board?
Well, at this point in time, I wouldn't, only for the simple fact that that's not going to change anything. It's an attorney being present to do that. It sounds good in theory because, granted, I've talked to them. I've asked those questions, and they've all agreed with me. Now, granted, this is the largest law firm in the state of Louisiana that I talked to. Okay, so and they've all even expressed those things to me. The main thing is that it's our right. So when we come together in droves, let's just say, all right, we got how many people in Livingston Parish? 150,000?
Around 140,000, 150,000.
All right, let's just say if we got 1% of that, okay? So if we just had 1% of that come out there and come show up to get out there and to show their support for their community, and so this, shouldn't that be enough for the school board members to go, wow,
I don't know,
we're getting there, and we should understand that we're enabling them. We're basically telling them that, hey, because we're not willing to show up and demand that you actually do the right thing because what you believe that you're doing is wrong, you can be held liable for your ignorance, because just because you're ignorant on this matter doesn't keep you immune. Remember that. So they are liable if something does happen, but you're not making it a point to where it's optional for us for the children to be able to wear a mask. Right. You want to tell us what's best for us. It's not your place to tell us what's best for us.
I don't disagree with that. Okay. But I'm all about taking the indirect approach here. Indirect approach is always the best approach.
By what? Bringing an attorney?
So here, yes. And here's why I mean that. So let's say that you do have some school board members, because I think you do, that are against this mask mandate. Correct. They're just afraid to say it publicly. Okay. And
I think there's actually a few of them that actually have said it publicly, but
who?
I couldn't actually
publicly
give you a name, but
I don't think so. Don't think so. Anyway, so let's say that they are insecure in the context of they don't know what to believe. They don't really know what their rights are. They don't know what the consequences perhaps can be. So
why are they in the position that they don't know their rights?
It doesn't mean that they're going to be proactive in studying it. Okay. So if we were to find someone to stand up there that has the credentials, okay, and perhaps maybe you have some school board members that would love the opportunity in front of them to ask them questions and say, okay, sir or ma'am, if we don't do this, what are our legal rights? And because I don't know if they've done that. And so I'm saying that if we take an indirect approach here and have a representative up there that has credentials, like I said, and give them the opportunity to dialogue with that person, because I would like to see if they would. Would it be just him going up there doing his 3-minute speech and then be like, okay, bye? Or would they go, okay, we have questions for you,
Well, then let's ask that question right now. So if there's anybody that's listening to this podcast that has an attorney in the area, would you be willing to represent the people, to come out for and be that guy so we can talk to them? If you know somebody, let's talk to them. Let's see if they would be willing to. But my thing is going to be this. As far as coming together, hiring an attorney for right now, no. The only time we as a community need to work together on this is that when we start seeing if they do not change their mind, because we have to at least give them enough time to go, okay, we've heard you. We've talked to you about this. This is what we're going to do. Now, if they get to the point where they go, nope, we're done with this conversation, now they're held liable for anything that happens.
Yeah.
And the instant something does happen, then we can join together. If we had to start a GoFundMe or whatever, then we can get the attorneys in and get them involved if you had to.
Right.
Because that's going to be the process. I would like to at least give them somewhat of a benefit of a doubt to say, we will listen to you, have the questions and answers this time, not just say open forum and then we'll let you talk and then goodbye and then shut me off at the last second. So. But anyway.
Yeah. That may be something that I can do on the podcast. Maybe I'll find an attorney to bring on, and even if I got to pay him, and come on and have that dialogue for people to reference and the school board to reference.
Well, let's see if we can do that. Let's see if we can get somebody in here that would be willing to do that. You said you may know somebody.
I think I know somebody.
Let's have that discussion. Let's bring that up. And then, like I said, if in the event that we do get to that point where the school board decides that they're not willing to listen to us, we may be able to bring that. We can maybe able, if they're willing to, is to say that we would like to have that representative of the community, whether it be an attorney or not, to be able to stand in front of the school board, right. to be able to get that questions. I don't want them to be the only one.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I don't want them to be the only one talking, because even though an attorney would be great to have that conversation with them, on all these things, we still need to be able to hear from the people, and then for them to say, let me ask the question. Right. Let Tori ask the question.
I don't disagree with that.
Let Brandon Browning ask the question.
I don't disagree. I get that.
The next time we do go, you're going to ask a question.
Well, what's funny is last year when I dealt with this, I don't like the whole you have to fill out a card to talk thing because there were a couple times last year where I didn't have any initial comments. I was just kind of there to sit back and observe, and after things got rolling, I was like, yeah, I got something to say now, and I tried to talk and they wouldn't let me. They were like, no, you didn't fill out a card. Yeah. Okay, but it's it is what it is. I didn't fill out a card. That's why I was telling people last night, if you even perhaps think you may want to talk, fill out a card and you can just defer. So, but no, I agree with that.
Brandon, one of the things that I wanted to mention real quick, because this is something that I pulled up. I mean, this is on their website, and I want every parent to understand this, because I don't think many parents actually read through, because I know some of the schools sent out an electronic email where they had to make you sign and go through this whole consent form of all this stuff. All right. So, but this is a Louisiana enrollment form for school-based health centers. Now, this was sent to me the other day from a friend of mine. She, I won't mention names, and said, we need to take a look at this because a lot of parents are pretty much either signing off on this and not knowing what they're signing off on.
So this is like just something they send out every year or what?
I don't, apparently. But it shows on here, of course, the students' information, printed name of school health, witness verify. I mean, it asks for different questions, but it's just for the public Office of Public Health. But if you see, and I do, and I'm not saying that you need to have this document or anything like that. All I'm saying is that you have a legal right to write the information down that you do not give consent of your child to be able to either be assessed by either COVID testing, COVID screening, which is a swab or anything like that, PCR testing and stuff like that, or immunizations, because clearly it states here, all services are provided by licensed professionals. By signing this consent, you are agreeing to allowing the school health center to provide the following services to your child: primary and preventative, which is assessments and screening, again, COVID testing, treatment of minor illnesses or injuries, chronic disease management, complete physical exams, referrals and follow-ups, lab testing, immunizations, prescriptions, health and nutrition education. Mm-hmm. I don't think the school should have any right to be able to. Now, granted, you already see was it East Baton Rouge and Zachary where they're allowing COVID testing in the schools, right? And they should not be allowing that. And I don't care what form of funding or anything else that's going on. That should not happen, because you're allowing them to jab this long-stemmed Q-tip up your nose and do this testing and here's the next thing. They want to do these PCR tests on the children at school to make sure that they're still okay, that they're not getting COVID. Mm-hmm. Well, wasn't it just recently Dr. Fauci and all the other Bill Gates and all them just came out and said, well, PCR tests, the CDC and the WHO actually says PCR tests don't work because it cannot differentiate between flu-like illnesses and COVID-19. Mm-hmm. That's their own words, but yet we're going to continue to allow them to go into our schools and perform COVID test screening with PCR test. What do you think they're still doing now in the hospitals?
Yeah.
Now, let's look at something real quick, real interesting information. What do you hear lately that's going on all across Louisiana? Hospitals are just
stacked with unvaxxed.
Just stacked with unvaccinated people. I want to see this proof and I want to see those numbers. Number one, because I can tell you right now in 4 other different countries besides the U.S., in 4 other countries, 60 to 65% of those who are hospitalized were vaccinated people. Mm. But all of a sudden here in Louisiana, now granted, we've already heard records of other things coming out of other states where the majority of the people that are going into the hospital are vaccinated. Why? You remember what you know who Michael Rappaport is, right? Mm-hmm. Michael Rappaport came out one day and was touting, go get your shot. Literally like the next day was posting a video going, Dr. Fauci just said that I'm a super spreader. Mm-hmm. I'm not a super spreader. Why would he call him a super spreader? Because what they're finding out with the vaccine is that you're what's called shedding. So yet you can actually shed the vaccine and cause others to become sick. What they just came out with, it was literally like a week ago, maybe not even a week ago. They just announced that because of the vaccinated, now this is from the NIH, the NIAD, whatever this other one is, one of the Fauci one that he does, and the CDC were talking about how the now vaccinated are creating mutant strains.
Correct.
Please tell. Now, see, does anybody now? I mean, if you hear it from them, you're going, well, shoot, I'm vaccinated, and now I'm causing others to get sick.
Yeah.
How much sense does that make?
Yeah.
Can you explain that to me, Randy Browning?
But no, I mean, you got to be so careful what you watch on the internet. I get it, but there was a doctor a video last night that I watched, and he said that very thing. He said the vaccine or the shot, whatever you want to call it.
We talk about the media. It's on the. These are the experts.
No. You're right. You're right. But he goes into the science. He said the vaccine, the shot, it attacks one protein, right? It's not eliminating it. It's not killing the virus, right? It
creates spike proteins,
right? And because of that, because of this scientific process that's happening, that's why it's mutating. That's why these other variants are happening. That's why you see so many vaccinated people get COVID. They don't have, perhaps the symptoms that an unvaccinated person was. Let me ask you that. Do you agree with everything that's being released now that at least the vaccinated people aren't having as severe symptoms?
I can't tell you. Honestly, I can't say that because of the numbers that I've seen, and this is all over. Like I said, there's numbers coming out from everywhere. Now, granted, we're in the United States, okay? Would I like to see the numbers reflect the truth? Yes. We do know that there are lawsuits filed right now against our U.S. government from American Frontline Doctors. There's other independent organizations that are coming out, other state governments that are coming out that are suing the U.S. government because of this. But we had just, like I said, now this was from December 9th of 2020 to June 23rd of 2021. Over 1 million COVID-19 vaccine injuries. Okay. There was 1,400 dead from that time gap. And this is just this is the UK.
Okay.
Yeah. So it says research and analysis, coronavirus COVID-19 vaccine adverse reactions. All right. Now,
this is from government.uk?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now granted, the whole Australia, it's just, I don't have that one here with me, but let's just bring up Australia real quick. The Australian Prime Minister came out and said that no one, zero, have died from COVID in Australia. But they're on massive lockdowns. They are trying to force vaccinate. But he comes out and admittedly says that 0 people have died in Australia from COVID. You know how outraged everybody was? The media was outraged. They've done canceled numerous people because of the outrage that they poured out once he came out and said those words. But where are we at? They claimed all these people. That's the reason why I was watching the video and the guy's just like, I want to knock out anybody who says I've lost somebody to COVID. No, you haven't. It's the very simple thing that we can look at is this. I went back and I looked at 15 years of research from the flu. And nearly almost every year from the flu, and the different strains of flu that we get, the different variants of the flu that we get, we're averaging 15 to 20,000 deaths a year just from the flu alone. Have you seen those numbers recently?
No.
I mean, it's like less than 5,000. Less than that.
Yeah.
So what happens?
Tell me.
COVID killed the flu, man. Yeah. COVID's so bad, it just completely knocked out the flu altogether.
Yeah.
Now, how do you feel about that?
I don't know.
All right,
it's exhausting.
It is exhausting. But I'm going to say this real quick. This is from the Public Health Scotland. This is a 2021, June 23rd, 2021, COVID-19 statistical report showed that 5,522 dead within 28 days following COVID-19 vaccine. This is from the AstraZeneca shots, Pfizer shot, and Moderna shot. Now, this is from Public Health Scotland. There are people out there who are recording this information. Trust me. There are people. You just have to be able to know where to go find it. It's all over. Of course, granted, why do you think we have a lawsuit against big tech right now? you think it has anything to do with really what everybody else believes it is? Or is it because they're silencing the information? Mm-hmm. They're silencing the truth. That's the major reason. Yeah. Now, you remember when American Frontline Doctors first came out? Mm-hmm. You remember their whole thing when they came out and they were talking about, the other preventative methods mm-hmm. to eradicate or to get rid of COVID? And what they do immediately after that? Shut them down. Yeah. Completely shut them down. There was no more discussion anymore about it. And these are doctors, teams of doctors and scientists who have come together saying that this is what's really going on. This is your other routes that you can take. And they're advising against not vaccinating. Right. Yeah. And I know we're not really talking much about vaccinations, but more about the mask. But I just wanted to point that out is that if we're supposed to be the ones who are, all right, Pelosi, Schiff, all the other ones in Washington, Biden, Harris, follow the science. What science do you want me to follow? Whose science am I supposed to listen to?
You're supposed to follow the government science.
So what about the other thousands of independent researchers and everybody else that have come out and against it? Why are all those guys being discredited for, Brandon?
Because they're conspiracy theorists.
So Dr. Sukshta Bhakti, who is a world-renowned microbiologist who comes out and talks about this, it's instantly discredited because he's a conspiracy theorist? Yeah. Is it because he actually did the testing and showed that this is what we found? But no one wants to hear that evidence.
Yeah, he's not Dr. Fauci.
So, real quick, I have a question before we wrap this up. I have a question for you.
By the way, I was being totally sarcastic. I hope somebody don't take that literally, my responses. I have to disclose that sometimes.
Brandon and his disclaimers.
Yeah.
All right, so real quick. I mean, granted, I know you're older than me, so you probably know better than this. I don't know. But I grew up in a time where I was just, my parents had these talks with me. You remember back in the 70s when they talked about we were going through a global cooling?
Yes, I think I do.
And then you go through a global cooling, and all of a sudden it's like, 20 years later, it's, well, we're not going through a cooling stage. We're actually going through a global warming stage.
Now we're getting into global warming.
And then we're going to global warming, and then all of a sudden it changes from global warming to what? Climate change. Mm-hmm. What science do you want me to believe? Right. The scientists who said in the 70s we were going to do a global cooling? But now they changed the narrative. That's the reason why you don't hear.
Well, technology's gotten better.
Yeah. I still trust the Farmer's Almanac compared to anything else, because the Farmer's Almanac, before all the technology science, is still more accurate than the others.
Yeah.
That's why farmers have used it for how many years?
True.
You want to do this again, man? Because we can talk about anything.
No, this is fun.
And be able to have like I said, hell, we should do? We should actually syndicate this. We should just have a syndication.
It's gonna be taken off the YouTube.
Oh, you think so?
Nah, I think we'll be good. We don't matter that much.
Well,
we don't matter.
It's true. You really,
we don't. We don't.
Brandon, you really don't matter that much.
The Livingston Parish thread doesn't have that much clout.
But here's the thing, though. We can get it there.
We're not the Hodge twins.
No, they look better than us anyway.
They're definitely funnier than us. That's right. Chinese virus. I need to start.
You'll sell some bird products.
I need to start selling my Livingston Parish thread hats and put the discount code as a Chinese virus. But,
Delta. Wait, speaking of, because I did actually watch the Hodge twins the other day. He was like, man, here's the one thing that I still can't understand. We have a Delta variant that they completely are saying it's real, it exists. Of course, granted, the scientists say that it's easily for you to catch the Delta variant, but the health side of it, it's easier for you to get over than the Alpha strain. And he's like, Kevin's like, how the hell do you test for the Delta variant? Yeah. There's no test.
No test for it.
Where do you go to find? They got the Delta.
Yeah, and now there's another variant out.
Oh, there'll be a whole bunch more. Gamma, Lambda, a whole bunch of them are supposed to come out. This is never going to end. That's the reason why I'm just like, all right, guys, keep being compliant. But we do need to say this. We need, maybe you can put it up, do something. We need to figure out a way maybe on your page. Also, real quick, just a real quick plug. Louisiana Life and Liberty. Go on Facebook, find it at Louisiana Life and Liberty. Okay. Now, the reason why I say that is that we can come together to a point for where we can all kind of gather in, so where y'all can have those questions. Because granted, a lot of the things that I've been posting on certain social media sites is not allowing them to be posted. So I need y'all to come together and say, if y'all really want to rally this up to get out there and do this, then please reach out. Reach out to Brandon through his podcast, through his Facebook page. Let's try to get the word out so that we can come together to do something. So we can show support here in this parish.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, good. I'm glad you're down.
So before we end this, because we're an hour.
Damn good show.
This is PG. I don't go.
That's not a bad word.
I'm just messing with you.
Yeah, I know.
I'm messing with you. So we're an hour and 30 minutes in, by the way.
See how time flies when you're having fun?
I know. It's a good conversation, man. I had fun playing the devil's advocate with you.
Yeah, well.
But I'm going to end this show by giving you a hard time, though.
Go ahead.
About
let's do it.
There was something that you told me. I'm going to see if I can remind you. Something you told me that you were going to do several months ago that you never did, and that was, if I recall, I think it was you were talking about starting your own podcast, and you're like, "Yeah, man, I'm game. I'm in." And then you went on Jim Chapman's podcast, and you on the Local Leaders podcast, and you recorded something about your business.
Yeah, what's your point,
right? But if I recall,
shout out number one recruiters. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, if I recall, you didn't start a podcast.
Actually, Brandon, the whole reason why.
Stop right there. If you think that Clay should start a podcast, you can come on my show anytime, right? Right. But if you think he should start a podcast, Facebook message him, comment down below, whatever you need to do, email him, text him, blow him up, encourage him, because obviously he's a little bit insecure and he needs that encouragement to start his own podcast.
Obviously, I'm a little insecure.
Yeah. So what you got to say about that?
Well, Brandon, if you actually do the research and actually look, yes, I actually have started the podcast. It actually is on YouTube. Again, it is Louisiana Life and Liberty. And again, on Facebook.
Oh, no. Hold on. Let me find this.
Yes, it is. It is there. The thing about it is that I've been so consumed with other issues at this time, primarily business related issues with my current business.
Shut up.
I've already got it there. It's just that, plus again, my setup's not as nice as y'all's.
I don't care.
You like that intro, don't you? You heard that intro, didn't you?
I'm skipping through it. Oh, wait, hold up. This is old. This is not a new podcast.
It's not the most recently, no, but again, I don't have the nice setup like you and Jim have. If I had the nice setup, I'd be posting probably every day.
Hey, I'm going to give you one of my favorite quotes by Jocko Willink.
Oh, God, here we go. There's a bromance between Brandon Browning and Jocko.
No doubt. But here it goes.
I'll give him that. He's pretty awesome.
All your excuses are lies.
Yeah, but it doesn't. But I just showed you proof. It's there,
dude. That is old.
It's still there. You can't say that I didn't, because I did.
You had to be. Yeah, that was pre-beard almost. I would say this is at least a year and a half old.
But also, too, here's the thing: that's on YouTube, right? I have a Rumble page as well, because YouTube likes to take me off.
Yeah.
So I do have a Rumble page. Louisiana Life and Liberty, of course, along with Facebook. Of course, Facebook, you're going to, as soon as you sign up for my Facebook page, it's going to tell you that some weird stuff from our so-called fact checkers.
Yeah. Well,
you just doubted that.
Dude, you can
borrow your studio?
You can borrow my studio. You can use Jim's studio, whatever you want to do just to get started. Because I'm there are times that I need a little bit of backup as well. And I don't know what you and I would disagree on.
I'm sure we got something we would disagree on from here and there.
We would disagree. We there's got to be something we would disagree on.
I'm still a libertarian, just by the way.
Yeah, but yeah, man. You can if you got something important to say, you should say it. I've encouraged others to start a podcast as well, and this is here for you to use anytime you want.
I still think we should do this whole show, man. We could be like Opie and Andy. We could be like
Do a whole show on what we just did.
I know. We could do a whole bunch of shows on a bunch of stuff.
Hey, I'm game.
It'd be like the Walton and Johnson show, but it'd be the Browning and Grant show.
Don't give me no excuses. I ain't got time. I've been tied up with business stuff because I run a business as well.
Hey, I'd make a time for you.
I'm running a business as well.
I made time for you this morning.
I was here this morning extra early. That's why I texted you and said.
And you told me what time that you said
9:30.
9:30. When did you text me?
I don't remember. But I mean, at the end of the day.
And did I not come immediately after that? I was like, oh shit. He said early. Okay, great. I'll be there.
I make time for what's important.
I made time for you, didn't I?
Yeah. But so don't give me this garbage about I run a business and this and that. Because as you see here, I shoot this at my office.
Yeah, I know.
So.
But again, you got a nice setup.
So I do, and but me investing this much money into this was kind of my way of holding myself accountable to continue.
Oh hell yeah, I'd be holding your ass accountable too.
Yeah.
So again, we should do a little bit more here in the near future.
Roger that. And you're gonna run for office what year?
I don't know. Same year you run.
You're running in 2023.
Same year.
You're not ready to disclose yet, are you?
I ain't gonna disclose.
Have you made up your mind?
I ain't gonna disclose until you disclose.
Oh, well, it'll be very soon. It'll be very soon.
What's very soon? I want to know exactly what very soon is.
Here's the thing.
Give me a date.
Here's the thing.
Timeline, please.
Somebody asked me this.
Stop dodging the question.
I'm not. I'm answering the question. Somebody asked me yesterday, why are you? I didn't know you were running for office in 2023. I said, well, obviously you haven't been watching my podcast because I've said it several times. But secondly, I said, you will know very soon, as will everyone else. And they were like, why would you announce so soon? Because
that's how you're supposed to do it.
That's how you're supposed to do it. But here's the thing. Okay. I'll go ahead and disclose this. And I think I've said this before. I'm going to announce very soon. And the reason why I'm going to announce very soon is because, think about it, the 2023 election season is very busy. You have governor, you have all your representatives here, you have your council, you have parish president, you have sheriff, you have clerk of court, you have assessor, you have it's so busy, okay? And it's so noisy that nobody has the time to really get to know the candidates in a really well.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, because people tap out, they get exhausted by it. Just like I'm exhausted by this whole COVID thing. So, but I'm going to announce very soon. The reason why is because I think it's beneficial for the community to get to know me, get to know what my, I guess you'd say, platform is going to be. It gives you plenty of time to reach out to me. It gives you plenty of time if you want to have coffee, if you want to have lunch, whatever it may be. It gives you, the constituency, time to get to know me, right?
Brandon, I'm getting exhausted by you dragging this out. Just go ahead and say it.
I'm not ready to say it.
Date and time.
I'm not.
I need a date and time.
I'm not right.
Give me a date and time when you.
Yeah, I've recently.
Look, you ain't got to tell me what you're running for. Just tell me when you're going to announce it.
I'm not ready.
You said soon. Soon means you have an idea of when.
I do have an idea.
All right. Is it going to be this summer? Is it going to be summer's almost over with. Is it going to be this fall?
Well, here's my thought process with that is. The election is in October 2023. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to have a full 2 years.
So you're going to announce in October.
I'm going to announce before October. So that's the thing, and honestly, just to be like, it's been a very grueling process for me. I think I told you that already. And because I had a few options, I've had people reach out to me for different positions, asking me to run for this, asking me to run. It's been very humbling. But it's been a very grueling process for me to actually say, okay, this is what I'm doing. So yeah,
good luck. I hope
it's not easy.
I'll be there to support you.
Okay. That's 2 people I got so far. I even got my buddy Ike said he's going to vote for me.
No, you mean wait, 2 people. So what, Ike, me and your wife?
No. Well, 3. That's 3. Yeah, 3. So, you have said Ike. Nah, there's a lot of people out there. But
I might be surprised if your wife goes, you know what, Brandon, I thought about it and I just don't think so.
But when you go against the good old boy system, You need an army.
Oh yeah, you're gonna need an army. Hey, I'm with you though. I'll be shit. We can rally the troops in nothing, man.
I don't know. We'll see. All right, let's wrap this up. We are an hour and 38 minutes.
Because that's what we do when this is good. You like this.
That's right. I do.
All right.
I enjoy it. No, great job, man. I appreciate all the things that you brought up last night and you've talked about today. You helped put things in perspective for myself as well. And that's the thing. And I'm kind of even, one of the things I forgot to say earlier is I surprised myself in a way because, you need to be reminded of your rights. You need to be reminded of the importance of, standing up in times like these and be able to look back in history and take things into perspective, because I found myself last night having too much empathy and being too sympathetic for those elected officials, because I realize they're in a very, very difficult position. They're in a very difficult position. And I found myself sympathizing with them a little too much. And so whenever you spoke and a couple of the other ladies spoke, it reminded me of how important it is in this time we're in. And I needed to be reminded, and we all need to be reminded, because that little drip campaign that we're all experiencing, just this little right here. I didn't even think about what he said about 9/11. I mean, I guess a couple of years ago I did, but we kind of forget and we kind of get used to it. And it's important to be reminded, and it's important to, I guess you could say, reset and say, okay, is this worth the fight? And perhaps if we don't fight this whole mask thing now, are we just going to continue to give in and give in and give in? What does that look like next year and the next year and the next year? So, because I do think we are on the heels of kind of like what you said, but I said indirectly, of a vaccination mandate, and we see these institutions, and I think EBR schools, and that's craziness, man. That's craziness. So, all right. So
let me do it.
Go.
Damn good show.
I'm gonna use that as a clip to promote this podcast. But anyway, you did a great job last night. Great job today. Appreciate you. Reminding me of things. Even last night, I think everybody. I even saw you got a thumbs up from one of the school board members. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
You did. One of them that I didn't think would do it, but anyway. So great job. Let's see what we can do, man. Appreciate y'all.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate. That's that Livingston Parish coming out in me. Anyway, so here we go.
Okay, Bubba, wrap it
Hey,
up.
don't forget to like the Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and
the Livingston Parish thread with Brandon Brown.
Correct. And man, I just hit 1,000 subscribers.
I know, and I'm proud of you. I'm surprised,
and
I'm proud of you.
I'm surprised too. And I got a little over 7,000. I think I got 7,300 follows on Facebook so far. That's pretty good for being a year in.
Well, once we get this out, I'll make sure to spread it out. And
if I could just get those 70, I forget how many votes I got in 2019. I think I got 15,000 votes in 2019, 15,500 or something like that. And so I need those.
Yeah, where's those 15,000 people at now for Brandon's post? I mean, come on, guys. What's going on there?
That's Facebook suppressing me, man.
Oh, well.
That's that big tech.
Parlor.
I don't like Parlor.
Getter.
Anyway, thank y'all so much for watching. Please, if you don't mind sharing, commenting, whatever even if it's a negative comment, I'm good. Like, it's not going to hurt my feelings. Clay's going to be good. He's a little bit more emotional than I am. Anyway, thank y'all so much for watching. Until next time, y'all be blessed.